morning and a huge welcome to today's Postgrad Insights session. Today's session will be brought to you by the University of Liverpool's online programs and division. So just before I hand you over to Ida, who's going to be today's first guest speaker, it will be a good opportunity to remind you that this is a live session. So if you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you might want to talk about throughout the session, there is a chat and a Q&A facility at the top or bottom of your screens, depending on the device you are using. And at the end of the session, there will be a live Q&A for 10-15 minutes. So if you have any concerns or questions, please be sure to raise your hand or to ask any questions throughout that time. But without waiting any longer, I'd like to hand you over to Ida. Ida is from the University of Liverpool Online Division, Deputy Academic Director. Ida, I'll hand over to you and I'll see everyone at the end of the presentation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming today. My name is Ida Kemp, and I'm the Deputy Academic Director, and I'll be joined by my colleagues, as Gareth has already said. Could I have the next slide, please? So today we're going to talk about our online programs. We're going to have a demonstration of the virtual learning environment so that you can see how it actually works in practice. And then we've got a time for admissions questions and questions about the enrollment process, as well as any other general questions about the academic content of the programs, which I'd be happy to try and answer for you. If I could have the next slide, please. I'm going to spend some time talking about the University of Liverpool itself. The university is the original red brick, and in terms of international comparisons, that's similar to an Ivy League college or to one of the top universities in the UK higher education system. So it's an established university, has a really good reputation. It's been graduating students for a number of years. It's also a member of the Russell Group, which is, again, it's the higher elite universities in the UK higher education sector. As you can see that it's been associated with Nobel laureates. It's ranked very highly in universities worldwide. And it has a number of international students on campus, as well as online, where we attract a global international student audience, which is really important. We have an alumni of over almost 300,000 students, which you can join once you graduate. If I could have the next slide, please. So the online programs are designed to work around your personal and professional commitments. They're part-time. The online element is 100%, so you won't have to worry about making a trip to the campus to do any residential areas, and you can take this wherever you are. So if you find yourself traveling for work or other commitments, you can also study while you're doing that. We really have an emphasis on the community of learning. So it's really important for us to have students learn from each other. The peers groups bring lots of information with them. So again, you'll be with professionals who are actually working in the field yourself. So not only will you learn from the lecturers and the course content, but you learn from other students, which is really, really important in our context. The learning platform is very swift and really supportive. And we spend a lot of time on our content development, ensuring that you have the right materials and the right elements to be successful on the program. And we recruit very high quality learning and teaching support. So our lecturers almost all have PhDs. They are used to working in the higher education sector. They are professionals as well. So we have a very rigorous recruitment process for our lecturers to ensure that you get the best high quality education that you can. May I have the next slide, please? So I'm going to talk about the different programs that we offer in business and management, in computer science, in education, and that relates to academic practice, so more at the academic higher education level. Our program in law, our programs in medicine and health sciences and psychology. And we offer a range of awards, so you don't feel that you have to apply for the master's straight away. If you want to try with a postgraduate certificate and take up to 60 credits, then move on to a diploma or move on to the master's, that's fine. And in fact, that's quite an attractive option for a number of our students so that they don't feel that they're committed to doing the master's at the outset of the program. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with our business and management programs. We have MScs in digital marketing, finance and investment management, healthcare leadership, international human resource management, project management, and sports business and management. Now, I've skipped over the Masters in Business Administration because that one is slightly different. For all the master's programs that I started with, those are for students who want to augment their skills and who might, you can go directly from an undergraduate program to a postgraduate program for that, or you might be wanting to augment the skill, your professional skills in those areas. For the Master of Business Administration, however, we will expect you to be working in a management or leadership position already in an organization. But again, the cohorts for that is really strong because you'll be working with other students and other participants in that area. But if you're looking to augment skills and just kind of starting things out, the other MSc programs are probably would be more attractive to you. The digital marketing obviously is important for any marketing thing, things that you might be doing. Finance and investment management will be looking at how you can augment skills in those areas. Our healthcare leadership is designed for students who are working in a healthcare sector and find themselves in management or leadership positions and need to understand how those principles work within a healthcare environment. International human resource management and management are both, as they say in the project, in the TINs. And project management is also, I'll give you logistical and project management information. Again, this works in all contexts. And if you, whatever field you're working in, a project management program is really, really attractive. Our sports business and management is aligned for students who might be working in the sports sector and want to augment their skills in management, and particularly perhaps at grassroots level or at community level. And of course, the Master of Business Administration is aimed at leaders and managers within businesses already. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have 6 computer science programs. Some of these programs require you to have computing experience already. Some of them are for people who don't have that experience and would like to augment their skills. So if it says conversion after the title, then that would be designed for students who don't have any computing background in particular and want to augment their skills in those areas. Or the other programs, or if you're already working in the field, or you already have computing experience or have a computing degree. Artificial intelligence, big data, computer science, cybersecurity, data science, and artificial intelligence and information systems are really, really important skills to have in any organization. And if you are looking to widen your skills in any of those areas, you'd be well served by these programs. They are designed so that students will work together on projects, but our lecturers are very experts in the field, and so you'll get a lot of support in that area. Next slide, please. For our education programs, we actually concentrate on academic practice, and this is generally aimed at the higher education level. But we have 2 pathways. If you're working in higher education already, then we would recommend the second pathway so that you would get, because we allow for higher education academy accreditation or advanced HE accreditation for that. But if you're new to the sector and you wanted to augment skills in perhaps working in educational fields in the higher education environment going forward, we have another pathway that would allow you to take a provisional or a starting program, and then you join the rest of the cohort for the rest. This doesn't come with accreditation, but in many cases that wouldn't be required anyway. So again, details about these will be on our website for our admissions teams that can help with. Next slide, please. We currently have 1 program in international business law. This is really attractive to individuals who are already working in business environments and want to augment their skills in the understanding of law, particularly in terms of copyright or IP issues, and also the variance between law approaches within different countries. Again, this attracts an international student audience. And at the moment, the cohorts are relatively small, so you'll get a lot of lecturer interaction as well as student interaction. I can highly recommend this program. Next slide, please. We have 2 programs that we consider to work within the health and sciences. We've already spoken a bit about the healthcare leadership, but we also have a Master in Public Health. The Master in Public Health is really designed for individuals who are working in a healthcare environment, but then want to see the bigger picture. Public health is a really important aspect now because of the pandemic, because of other elements, but you'll be looking at a number of ways that you can help to identify issues that go across populations, and then put things into place to help wider sections of people. So this addresses issues of general people's health, general societal health, and relates to issues of culture and how society responds to health issues rather than individuals. I do have practitioners, I know health practitioners who said that they've really benefited from this program, and it's really put their professional practice into focus after taking a master's in public health. And one more slide, please. And our final program that I'd like to talk to you today is the psychology programs. We have 3 programs at MSc level. The psychology conversion is designed for individuals who don't already have a psychology degree, and this is accredited by the BPS. If you do have a psychology degree, you can also take it because it's at MSc level. But this is accredited by the BPS, which is the British Psychological Society. And so that brings a lot of kudos to it, and a lot of rigor is demonstrated by that accreditation. The mental health psychology and the organizational and business psychology are both non-accredited, but they will enhance your careers in terms of interest in giving you additional information about the areas of psychology that will lead to better professional practice. The first 4 modules of all programs are the same. So there is also some flexibility in starting one of the programs and then deciding to take one of the other ones after the 4 modules. All of them have dissertations, and all of them are very high quality. Next slide, please. So if you want any more information, our website can tell you more. Our admissions team, who are very professional, can tell you more. I can try to answer questions at the end of the session, but I would ask you to refer to the website for more information to start with, and that should give you a good idea about what's included in each of the programs and what opportunities there are for you if you pursue them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Ida, and thanks everyone for your time this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're calling in from. My name's Stephen Livesey, and for this part of the presentation, I'm just going to go through the virtual learning environment from the perspective of a demo student, and hopefully this will give you a sense of what it's like to study one of our modules, what it's like to work around some of the content, and you'll get a chance to see some of the types of activities that we ask students to engage with as part of their program. So first of all, this is the learning platform. It's a central space for you to access everything you'll need to complete your online program. So from this central area, you'll access your taught modules, your learning activities, the assessments, any feedback you get from the lecturers. You'll also communicate with your peers in discussion forums, group projects. It's a really collaborative, engaging learning environment, and we make sure that you have access to everything you need, hopefully just within a couple of clicks. It's a nice and easy to use learning platform. You also get access to the University of Liverpool online library, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on, but it means you have access to hundreds of thousands of resources, ebooks, journal articles. It's an amazing resource, and it's all single sign-on, so one set of credentials will get you through to everything you need to successfully complete the program. For this demonstration, I'd like to focus actually on what a module looks like, so a taught module of study. So as a student here, I'm going to go into my dashboard first of all. So every student has their own personalized dashboard, and this shows the modules that you're enrolled on as a student. And I'm going to go into a computer science module. Now, the same principles, the same format of content applies to all our programs, the programs that Ida's just outlined there. This is obviously a computer science program, but the same principles apply whether you're studying psychology, public health, management. It's all the same, really. So this is the module homepage. On the left-hand side here, I've got some navigation, and in the center, I've got the content. And again, this is a consistent design that we use throughout your program. And we also enroll students in an induction module before you take your first taught module. And this is a great opportunity for you to learn how to use the platform, how to access the library, post to discussion forums and so on, and before it actually comes to a real taught module. So you're ready to go when that teaching starts in week 1. So for this demo, I'm going to go through some of these key pages, and then I'll look at the content that we have in week 1. So first of all, I'll go into the lecturer office. So every module is supported by a lecturer. and their role is to support you with any academic queries you might have about the content. So we have some contact details here for you to get in touch with the lecturer, a bit of a biography. They will also engage with you through the discussion forums. They'll grade your assignments, they'll provide you feedback, and they play a really active role within the module to support students throughout those 8 weeks. And they'll be a subject matter expert in that particular field. So in one module, you'll have one tutor, and in the next module, you might have another, but they are really experts in that area. And you'll form a good relationship with those lecturers, because we keep the class sizes quite small. We cap them at about 20, and that means that you have a really good relationship with your lecturer throughout the 8 weeks of the module. Each module has an area called additional resources. This is a space for us to place any materials that might not necessarily fit into a week of study, but might be useful to you throughout that module. So it could be information on the grading criteria. It might be that there's some technical terms within the module. So in this example, we've got a glossary. It could be that you need access to some software. We post links to that in this this sort of repository here. But we actually give you directed resources within the weeks, and I'll show you that in just a second. Each module has a schedule. This is a really important page within the modules. So here you can see a timetable of assessments. And really, these are the milestones throughout the module. In this module, there are 4 points of assessment. So, for example, there's a discussion forum here that lasts for 3 weeks. There's 3 deadlines associated with it. So each week there's a milestone for the discussion forum. And then at the end of that discussion forum, you'll get feedback from your lecturer and a grade. And the idea being that you can then apply that feedback further on in the module. So for example, here you've got another discussion in weeks 5, 6, 7, by which time you will have feedback from the first one, and you can hopefully develop your writing and develop your skills throughout the module. But instead of having one big piece of assessment at the end, we actually break the assessment up into different formats and present that to students throughout the module. So other examples might include, in this module, there's a poster presentation. It's actually a group work project where you're asked to work together in a group to prepare a poster, and then you upload that to the platform. Then there's another discussion forum to be a different topic, but again, you engage with your fellow students through the discussion forum. And then at the end, in this example, there's an essay, but there's a wide range of assessment methods in which we use to assess students, but also to give you that feedback throughout the module. It's really important you're getting feedback from your lecturer, but also from your fellow students in the discussion forums and in the group work activity. It's a really sort of collaborative experience throughout the 8 weeks. In some modules, but not all, there are also live seminars. Now, these are seminars held on Zoom, just like we are here today. And again, there's a set time for these. Now, these are optional in all the programs, apart from the MBA, where there is a requirement for students to attend some synchronous hours. But on all the other programs, these sessions are optional, but they are a good opportunity, if you can make them, to meet the lecturer, but also to meet your fellow students in a small Zoom room. And it may be that you will go through a seminar topic. You might do some group work, or the lecturer might go through some key points for that week. They're all recorded. So if you can't make the session, it's not a problem. You can catch the recording and you can listen back to that in your own time. Students often will ask a question to the lecturer before the session. Even if they can't attend it, the lecturer can then address that point in the seminar, and the student can then catch up on the recording. So you can still engage with these sessions even if you can't attend in a live setting. They're a good opportunity for students. And then finally, I'll come to a week of study. So each week has a particular topic. There's some introductory text for the week and some learning outcomes. And then you'll see, as I scroll down the module page, I've got a series of activities to complete this week. And I'll run through some of these now just to give you a sense of what the actual learning content looks like. So first of all, we have what we call a lecturecast. If I load this up, this is our version really of an online lecture. But instead of giving students perhaps an hour-long piece of video, or a traditional 2-hour-long lecture, we break that up into much smaller pieces, and it looks something like this. So we've got a home page with some introductory text, and then as I start the lecture, I'm presented to the content in different formats. So actually the first step here is a piece of video. So I'll just play this for a second, and I'll mute the audio, but there's some voiceover going over the back here. And in this example, we've used some imagery to sort of illustrate the topic that the lecturer is talking about. It might be that we do some animation, maybe it's just some simple text on the screen. The main thing is that we try and make the videos as engaging as possible without sort of overcrowding the screen with too much content. And we also try and keep these video clips relatively short. So although this lecture might take an hour to go through the whole lecture, you can see this video here is about 3 or 4 minutes long. So we've broken it up into different formats. And if I just skip ahead and go on to the next page, as I work through the lecture, you can see on this page, I've got some text. This is kind of a sort of timeline for the history of computing, I think. But each page might have a slightly different format, and that offers you a different way of engaging with the content. And then at the end of this first little section, we also have an opportunity for you to really engage with the content, just to check you've understood the materials that have gone before. And here you've got a simple, could be multiple choice, it could be drag and drop, maybe it's a free text entry, but it's just a chance for you to check your understanding and get some feedback as well. These don't contribute to your grade in the grade book, but are really good opportunities for you to engage that content. And what you also might do, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to do the traditional lecture, is I could save this now and come and stop studying and then come back later on, and it'll just remember my progress. So I can perhaps work on this throughout the week instead of having to sit for through a 1 hour lecture. You can study this in your own time. That's a lecture cast. Other activities that might fall within a week could be, here we've got a poll. So we're asking students to vote on something and then have a discussion about that, the results of that poll. There are reading materials each week. So here I mentioned the library earlier. Each week you'll get a set reading list. So there is a reading list for the whole module, but we also break it up week by week. So that really gives you guidance each week on what you should be reading to give you some focus. And all these resources are available through the online library. So again, we can just link straight here to the online library, single sign-on, so you can get access to those resources really nice and quickly. And finally this week, we also have a discussion forum. So I'll just quickly show you what a forum looks like. So in this example, it's a discussion forum that lasts for 3 weeks, and there are prompts each week. So there's instructions for each week of the forum. And at the bottom of the page here, you can see I just simply type my message in here. And then over the course of those 3 weeks, my fellow students and my lecturer would engage with me, and you would be expected to also respond to your fellow students' posts and animate the discussion forum. And that simply lives in the VLE. So again, a nice, easy to use interface when collaborating with your peers. The final thing I want to mention as part of this tour is we talked about the content and the support you get from the lecturer, but you also have a whole support network available through our Student Services department. So you might have noticed in the bottom right corner, we have a support tab here. It could be that you need to contact our student support team. Perhaps you need to take a study break. Perhaps you need some help with referencing. Perhaps you need some help with academic writing. There's a study skills team with a whole study skills hub of resources. There's a student support and experience and welfare team. And these teams really help students get through those programs and help them with any difficulties they might have along the way. Or you can simply use this help center really quickly. If you perhaps just need a little bit of help with academic writing, for example, there are lots of articles in here, videos, supportive material that you can launch straight from the platform within the page, and just to give you quick answers. But if you really need to speak to student support, you can also find here, you can catch them on the phone, email, or if you really want to, you can also use this support tab. We have live chat on the platform as well. So you can actually chat with them live through the platform. Maybe you're not sure how to submit an assignment. You can go straight through live chat and the team are there to help you through your program. A really valuable team that you will definitely engage with throughout your program. And they're there throughout the whole program to help you complete your program of study.
Hello there, I am one of the admissions advisors. We are obviously here to really help you on your journey through your application for a postgraduate program with the University of Liverpool. And we can advise you pre-application, help you put together the best application that you can. And then obviously we can help you during the application and right up to the point where you enroll, basically. So once you've made contact with us and spoken to an advisor, either through an email or a live chat or on the telephone, then we'll stay with you right up to the point where you're enrolled, and then basically you hand it over to student services, and then basically you won't need to speak with us again for hopefully a while. So the first thing to say is that obviously all the information that you require to make a decision about your program is on the website. It's on each individual subject page, and then we have this great tab, which is a Discover More one, which tells you even more about the sort of things that you can expect through online learning. Now, when you're making your first application here, so the real thing is to prepare your documents, because you can obviously apply online, attach all those documents, and these are documents that we require. So you do have to do this when you're applying. So obviously the first one that we'd like there is the photographic ID, and we basically have three main types, which is a passport, obviously current passport, driver's license, and for some countries it will be a national ID card, as long as it's got a photo and a date of birth. And ideally they should be copies of your originals, so not copies of copies whereby it ends up with like a really black dark photocopy, but just a nice crisp clear photocopy, JPEG, anything like that of your ID, and that would be absolutely great. And then obviously a current what we call a CV, or you may know it as a resume, with obviously your work experience, your education experience, and obviously any other things that add to who you are as a person and a professional. And then obviously we'd like to see your education certificate. So this will be your bachelor's, or you may have a master's, you may have a PhD. So basically, if you're saying that you have these qualifications and you want us to consider them, then basically we will need to see the certificate, and we'll need to see the transcript, and they will have to be translated into English, as with all your documents, your CV, etc. So all the course is taught in English, and the application is English, and we do need to see the documents in English. One of the key areas of the application is the personal statement. This is really where you get to sell yourself, sell your background, your education, your aspirations, and your ambitions in terms of the course that you are looking to participate in. And you can find more on how to write an effective personal statement. There's a link there. So on our web pages, there is a guide really to how to make your personal statement as strong as you can. Because obviously some people will be looking to enter a program without an academic background. They'll be doing it based on a work-based route. And this public personal statement is where you can really emphasize what it is that you are going to bring to the program and what you hope to take from the program. And then finally, in terms of the documents and what we require is we do require evidence of English language proficiency. We have an awful lot of international students. The whole course is taught in English. And if you don't have it, please don't let that stop you from applying. Once you have applied and we have all the other documents, we can arrange for you to sit one of our, it's called a KITE test, which is basically our English language proficiency, which is sufficient for our needs. It takes about 40 minutes, maybe an hour. You do it online, you can decide the time, so it won't inconvenience you. And that will be enough to meet those requirements. So if you have a current in-date IELTS academic score, that's great, we can use that. That's usually within the last 2 years. If your educational transcript says that your mode of instruction was English, that's great, that should be enough. But if you don't have any of those, you don't want to go to the expense of getting your own English language proficiency test, we can provide one with you once we've completed the application process. So if I could have the next slide, please.
Thanks, Gary. Just before we go any further, I think there's slight interference with your earphones. It might be against your jumper you've got on there.
I do apologize. Sorry about that. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me better now. And all right, thank you. Okay, so what we're looking here is the whole process. So as I said, once you make contact with us, we will be assigned to yourself. One of the advisors will be assigned to you and to stay with you. So if you're asked a question early on and then you're asked a question later on, we will know that history and be able to sort of expedite the application process. So you will get, and you contact us through the website. So you can either go on our live chat, which is on every page of every program. There's a little symbol down on, usually on the bottom right corner, and it's can I help you? Click on that. And if it's between the hours of 9 and 7 UK time, one of us will be there to help you. Or you can send us a direct email through the inquiries, or you can call us if you're happy to do that. We don't actually take calls on the WhatsApp, I'm afraid. We do get a lot of requests for that. But unfortunately, the channels of communication are, as we just mentioned, and they are great. We can always get back to people, and we can always have good conversations, albeit sometimes the connectivity can be a little bit strange. So you'll have your admissions advisor, and then basically what we'll do is we'll speak with you, make sure that the program that you're applying for is the one that you want and is the one that best suits what you require, because we can provide advice on that. And then basically we'll ask you to make your application, or you'll have made your application and we will be assigned to it. There is no cost for you to apply, so that's not a barrier to you applying. Once we have all your documents and we have the application, we as admissions advisors will review it. We may come back to you and say, please, can I have another document, or can you just have a look at this, or can you explain this to me? Because the clearer we can put that to the Director of Studies, the easier it is for them to accept and make an offer for your application. It's quite a speedy process in the normal run of things. You would get an answer, I would say certainly within 7 days, sometimes faster, depending on what time of the year it is, or sometimes it can take a little bit longer if we're getting closer to a deadline. So once we've reviewed the application, we will forward it over to the Director of Studies, and then basically the director will look at it and ideally offer a position. So if you are offered a place on one of the programs, you will then get a letter from myself as admissions advisor, and that will contain your payment plan as well as a couple of other documents regarding the program. And then basically we would ask that you return those documents within 14 days to accept the place and make the deposit payment on the program. The deposit payment forms your first month's payment, so it's not extra, it's not that you lose it. It basically is an upfront monthly payment that basically secures your program, even if your program is not till October. Now, just one point to mention about the offer is that the Director of Study could review it and could maybe say, oh, I'm not entirely convinced that you're right for this program. However, we may have a program that does suit you. So for instance, you could apply for the MBA, but maybe lack the strategic experience that it requires for you to take part. The Director of Studies may see this and may suggest that whilst you're not able to join the MBA at this point, you may wish to look at something like our MSc management program, which will give you extra skills, and then in time you will have that experience, and then maybe at some future date join the MBA program. So we review that, we offer a place, and then basically we wait for you to accept that place. If I could have the next slide, please. Okay, so as of October, the new monthly, fee structure is in place for the programs. This will obviously include all programs. Now, there is one July program still to run, which is the MBA, which is still based on this year's. But if we look at the fees as of October onwards, you'll see that the postgraduate award, which is only available in the law and the healthcare programs, has risen to £2,677.50. The postgraduate certificate for all programs is £5,355, and the postgraduate diploma is £10,710. If we could have the next slide, please. And then we've got our master's programs, which are at £16,065, the same as the Master of Public Health. And then obviously the MBA is £22,050. So those are all the fees as of October onwards. And if I could have thank you. To help assist with that, there are some regional scholarship discounts of up to 15% for students. You do not have to apply separately for any of the available discounts or scholarships. We will point them out to you on your application, and we will include them in your payment plan for you. So that will be done automatically. Obviously, we can discuss it, and we can discuss any combinations of those, because it's not likely that you are able to have all the combinations of all the available discounts, and we will discuss that with you. So for instance, we've got the scholarships up to 15%. We do have a full payment discount of 5%. So if you or maybe your employer wants to pay up front, then they will be receiving a 5% discount for that. There's an alumni discount for people that have studied with us before, and that's of 10%. And then for this year, so this includes October, we have 2 executive scholarships. One is for the MBA of 15%, and that is for July and October. And then we have this 20% discount available for the management MSc, which is for the October intake. So there are some options there to assist you with that. And then obviously we as admissions advisors will let you know anything that you are entitled to, and it will be built into your payment plan. So if I could just, so that's the admissions advisors element of it, and I'll hand it back to Gareth for the Q&A. Thank you very much.
We've had questions come in left, right and centre, and one of the things that has struck me is the popularity, and Gary, I want to bring you back on here, is the popularity of the English language proficiency test that you guys offer. That is very rare. You know, we get a lot of international students at postgrad.com ask us and say, what level of IELTS, TOEFL, Pearson score, Duolingo do you require? So for a professional provider to offer that within the application stages, within, you know, joining you guys, must make a huge difference. Do you see that as a real advantage for you over other universities in what is a very competitive marketplace?
Well, we know that the students that we speak to, or the applicants that we speak to, we know it is a real feature for them, because there is an expense to this if they don't already have the English language proficiency, and some of them will have it, but unfortunately it will be out of date. It may be from 10 years ago. So to be able to offer it, and to offer it free, is a great selling point for the program. Now, obviously, we do make it clear that this is proprietary to University of Liverpool. It's not something they're going to be able to use if they are looking around. But what it means is that if they have done their application, this is not a barrier for them. And essentially, it is us trying to find a way to help them through it. And also, it is relatively straightforward. We set everything up. The applicant receives a link that we email to them, and in their own time, within an agreed period. So we like to get them back sort of as soon as we can to process the application. They can sit down and do the test, make sure their environment is right, and it's as straightforward as that, really. So it's a great selling point, and I think most of the students that I've ever spoke to who have done this have really appreciated it.
Thank you, Gary. And Stephen, if I can bring you on at this point, thank you for showing us the demo. I think it was great. And one thing that struck me was how advanced your portal is compared to other universities. You know, I wouldn't call it groundbreaking, but obviously over the last 4 or 5 years with COVID and everything else that's happened during the pandemic, people have struggled with the cost of living crisis. So to be able to offer an online course with that level of education, and to have the knowledge of knowing that everything's on a portal, must be great. And do you see that, again, similar to my last question to Gary, really, do you see that as a real advantage compared to the competitors, because you're way ahead of the curve where other universities are kind of just building that at the moment?
Yeah, I think where we essentially have the advantage is that we have designed that environment and our provision of online programs specifically for online from the very beginning. Whereas some competitors have turned campus programs and using campus technologies to try and bring online students in. And we have been doing this for a long time, but only for online. So it's all we do. And therefore, the whole thing is geared around making that platform as easy to use as possible, making sure the content is in the right format, and then making sure that the support services that go along it are geared for supporting, specifically the needs that online students have that campus-based students, perhaps don't have. So yeah, it's quite a bespoke environment, and I think that is one of our competitive advantages, definitely.
Excellent. And Ida, if I could bring you on at this point as well, just talking about some of the courses that you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. One of the questions we've had come in is, does it really matter from a Russell Group uni whether or not your course is purely online or whether it's campus-based? That will be a worry for a lot of people. But what's the take on it from your side? Does it matter? The same credits, same kind of conclusion?
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. Your transcript will be from the university. You'll be able to attend the graduation ceremonies with other university students when those run. You'll have, if you are in the UK or you find yourself in the UK, you can actually use the library facilities on campus. You're the same as an on-campus student. You'll just be studying online. All the programs are fully accredited and approved by the university. We go through the same rigorous processes for module and program development as you would do on campus. And in some ways, we actually take more care because we have to think about the pedagogy behind the online environments. So that the students would be the same. You'll be treated, you'll be an alumni of the university as any other student would be. So yeah, the privileges, if you will, would be the same as for an on-campus student.
Excellent. How do you make students feel as part of a team? You mentioned earlier on, it might have been Gary or Stephen, but you limit classes mostly to around about 20 students per class. But by losing that element of face-to-face campus, some people might think, actually, I've lost that sense of being in a team. But how do you evolve the classes to make sure that every student feels special and welcomed and as part of that team?
Well, as Stephen did say, we do limit the number of classes because we understand that the number of students in classes, because the discussion boards themselves can become too busy. So a lot of the activity, so any interactions have to be managed very, very carefully. The lecturer also will be able to get much better feedback, individualized feedback on any coursework that's either for just formative, so just you submit an activity and then you get something that doesn't count towards your final mark, as well as elements that do count towards your final mark. So we do manage that quite carefully. We do have as many interactive activities as we can. Those are built into the when we design the programs, and the lecturers themselves have experience in online delivery. So we don't have, so the lecture recruitment process is rigorous. We make sure that there is training provided in the online environment before lectures start, and the lecturers are as I did say, professionals in their fields. So there's a lot of support for students in the online environment, recognizing that it's different to an on-campus environment.
Yeah, and it's also important for anyone watching as well to remember that even if you do a campus-based course, face-to-face learning time is limited at a master's level. You know, you're not in 5 days a week, you know, so in some ways it's very similar, with the exception of you guys are set up and built ready for that perfect student. So let me just touch upon international students to UK students, because there'll be people watching, like Gary just mentioned, that don't speak great English and will see the kite system as a great opportunity for them. How diverse are your students? Is there a huge amount of international students against UK? Is there anything different for international students that you can offer as opposed to other universities?
I think the thing is that our student base is very mixed. It can be up to 75% or even higher, 75, 80% of students could be international students within some of the student cohorts. It depends on the program. So so that might go across all the students. But there's a real student community in the I mean, being an international student doesn't make any difference. You are a student, you are a participant. It doesn't matter where you're from. Everyone is treated equally. And in some ways, having an online environment also helps, because you can think more carefully when you do engage with other students in terms of the discussion boards. And I did some early research in the online environment and found that actually, for students whose first language might not be English, a discussion board is actually much more helpful, because you'll have time to think about what you write, you'll have time to think about your thoughts. You won't have to be competing against voices that might be stronger to yours in a discussion forum, because you're doing it in a text environment. So I don't think that if English isn't your first language, you're at a disadvantage at all. You'll actually have more time in an online environment to engage with everyone else in a kind of different way.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for that, Ida. And Gary, can I bring you back on at this stage? Because I think I'm going to touch upon the funding in a moment, because naturally people would like to know about funding options, and I know you're probably going to point them to the direction of the website for more information. That's great. But if I can start with feedback for students, because there'll be many students that will be watching this now and in the future that will apply and like the kite system, like the fact that you offer all these extra things that go a long way. However, what feedback do you give to students when maybe they're not successful, or maybe they do need a little bit more information? You mentioned earlier on in the presentation that, you know, you do, if they failed at one course, they'll hand it to the registrar and they'll see what other courses are available to them. But what feedback can you give to the student to enhance their career and their further studies?
Sure. So I guess the good thing is, because we have a wide breadth of postgraduate offerings on the online platform, that we are able to point someone, say, for instance, who has an interest in, say, computer science. We are able to look at different areas of that and say, well, actually, have you looked at, because sometimes what will happen is we find that maybe somebody's been sponsored through their work, or perhaps they've had some experience and they want to take it further. So they've alighted on one particular, well, let's just say they've seen the computer science because they think that will cover everything, but that's a conversion program. And that basically says, do this program if you don't have that experience. So somebody will come and say, I would like to do computer science because I want to increase my understanding. And I will see their documents that they've provided and say, well, actually, I can see here you've got an undergraduate degree in computer science. So you're kind of halfway there. And you've been working in the field for maybe 2 years. So you've got that experience. I don't think that the computer science program is going to be the best option for you at this point for you to take yourself forward. However, have you looked at our other ones, such as the big data or the artificial intelligence, or maybe something has sparked your interest, that they've maybe got an interest in cybersecurity, and you can say, these will take your understanding that you have now and take you to a higher level. Now, if we don't say that at the admissions point of view, when those documents go through, the director of studies will certainly say, actually, they're too qualified for this level, point them in this direction. And then what we find that way is, rather just say, sir, I'm sorry, but that you are rejected from this program for eligibility criteria, it is like, this is not the program that's best for you. However, there are options, and we can do that, as we said, with the MBA, and also things like the academic practice, where we've got the two different pathways into it. We can see what a person's background is, which is why their CV and their personal statement are so important, because it will tell us about them and their experience, and that will help us guide them before they go to the time and trouble, really, of filling in the application proper. We could do that before that stage.
Excellent. And I wasn't going to touch up on the personal statement, but now you've mentioned it, it's a really important point. You mentioned how important it is and why it's so vital. Can you give any hints and tips in terms of any students that are watching, what you're looking for? You know, if a course is oversubscribed and there's multiple options, what is it that stands out to the admissions teams that makes them go, right, they're right for that course?
So I think the main thing is, you've only got a certain amount of words, between 250 to 500 words. Even 500 words is not as many as you may think.
Yeah.
And so almost treat it as if you're applying for a job and putting the best, strongest points forward. So stay focused and basically explain where you've come from in terms of your educational and life journey, because a lot of certainly our international students have been shaped by events that we in the UK have never considered. I have read some amazing personal statements, and that shapes their aspirations. So basically, stay focused, explain your background, explain where you are now and where you want to go with the program's aid. And basically, within those sort of short parameters, and there is more guidance, sorry, online on our website. But with those short parameters, you can write a strong, punchy personal statement that, let's say, for instance, you don't have the academic requirements, but you have the work requirements. This will help you, because we can basically take the two and combine them, and to see if you are eligible that way. So it is worth spending the time and the effort on the personal statement.
Excellent. And I want to wrap things up on the funding aspect. I mentioned it earlier. Plenty of students asking about 100% fully funded scholarship options and partial funding and scholarship options. What do you guys offer? And is there anything in the near future you expect to change?
Well, I can tell you what we offer now, but anything concerning, say, fully funded in the future, that probably would be something for Ida to explain. But we can provide up to 15% regional scholarship discounts for most of our international students. So basically what will happen is a student will, let's say they've not applied yet, but they want to understand the funding before they go to it. They will speak to an admissions advisor. We will ask them where they're from. So it is important actually when they register their interest that they do tell us where they're from, because it helps us, because different countries have different rates, etc. So once we've established where they're from, we have a little spreadsheet here that tells us, and then basically we say, yes, you are eligible for 15%, or your particular country is eligible for 5%. And whilst it may not seem like 5% may not seem a huge amount, I think every little bit helps, when certainly when the individual is paying for it for themselves. So we've got that. And then I guess the most exciting thing we've got at the minute then is the 2 executive scholarship discounts, which is the MSc Management. So that will run up till October. So for the October intake, they would get that. So anybody who applied for the MSc Management, regardless of where they're based, would get that 20% MSc Management regional discount. And then obviously the MBA program. So that has a 15% discount on it. So that includes the July and the October. So there are options. There are no fully funded options, unfortunately. As to anything in the future, you'd have to ask Ida, mate.
Yeah, Ida, if I could bring you in at that point, I know Gary's explained a lot of it already, but is there anything further you'd like to add to that?
I can't comment on funding. I think Gary's answered that very well, but I would reiterate the issue about the personal statement and giving us your aspirations and why you want to study for the program. That really helps our academic teams to understand your skills, your experience, and the attributes that you will bring to the program. So I would really reiterate that, if I might.
Absolutely. Great point. But for now, from all of you, thank you very much. Ida, Gary, and Stephen as well. Stephen, I'm conscious that we haven't spoken to you very much in the Q&A, but the demo was wonderful. So thank you very much. You know, everyone's been watching that with lots of questions. It's been on social media. So just a reminder, this has been a live session. If anyone's got any questions or any concerns or issues surrounding any of this presentation, University of Liverpool will be in touch. We have all your details. And if you want to watch this session, or if you've missed anything, this will be live and on demand on postgrad.com from tomorrow. But for now, Gary, Stephen, and Ida, huge thank you. And we look forward to seeing you again in the not too soon future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.